The worst betrayal is not the one that destroys you, it is the one that forces you to discover the strength you never knew you had. Emily Carter believed her life was stable, predictable, even safe. For 8 years, she had been married to Daniel Carter, a man admired in business circles for his charm, ambition, and confident leadership. To the outside world, they were the perfect couple, living in a beautiful house in the suburbs, hosting elegant dinners, and smiling in photographs that suggested success and happiness. Emily had sacrificed much of her own career to support Daniel's rise. She once had dreams of becoming a successful interior designer, building her own creative firm, and transforming spaces with her unique vision. But when Daniel's startup began to grow, he needed someone dependable, someone who believed in him completely. Emily became that person. She helped manage his early finances, organized events, entertained investors, and quietly placed her own ambitions on pause, believing that marriage meant building something together. For years, she convinced herself that the sacrifices were temporary and that when Daniel's company finally stabilized, she would return to her passion. Yet somewhere along the way, that promise slowly disappeared into the background of their lives. Daniel became busier, traveling frequently, attending meetings in distant cities, and returning home late with vague explanations about deadlines and partnerships. Emily noticed the distance, but she trusted him completely. Trust was the foundation of their marriage, or at least she believed it was. One evening, while preparing for a company celebration dinner, Emily searched Daniel's laptop for the guest list he had asked her to print. As she opened his email, her eyes froze on a message that had nothing to do with business. The subject line read simply, "Last night was perfect." Confusion turned into cold disbelief as she read the message from a woman named Victoria, thanking Daniel for the beautiful evening they had shared and asking when they would meet again. At first, Emily assumed there had to be a misunderstanding, some mistake, some explanation that would make the words harmless, but the deeper she looked, the clearer the truth became. There were dozens of messages, photographs, secret plans, and affectionate words that no husband should ever send to someone who was not his wife. The realization did not arrive with loud drama or tears. Instead, it felt like the slow collapse of everything she believed about her life. Her hands trembled as she closed the laptop, unable to breathe normally as the truth settled into her chest like a heavy stone. Daniel was not just distant, he was unfaithful. The man she had supported, trusted, and loved had been building another relationship behind her back for months, perhaps longer. That night, when Daniel returned home, he greeted her with the same confident smile he always wore, unaware that the illusion had already shattered. Emily watched him carefully, noticing details she had ignored before. The expensive perfume lingering on his jacket, the careless confidence in his voice, the way he avoided direct questions about his travels. For a moment, she considered confronting him immediately, demanding answers, forcing him to explain the betrayal, but something inside her stopped her. Instead of anger, she felt clarity. For the first time in years, she looked at Daniel not as the man she had sacrificed everything for, but as a stranger whose ambition had slowly erased their marriage. When he asked casually how her day had been, Emily simply replied that it was fine. She observed him quietly during dinner, studying the person she thought she knew, and realizing that love had blinded her to the obvious changes in their relationship. The following days were filled with silent discovery. Emily gathered information calmly, reviewing financial records, emails, and business documents. What she found shocked her even more than the affair itself. Daniel had not only been dishonest emotionally, he had been using shared accounts to finance expensive trips, gifts, and luxurious experiences for Victoria. The company she had helped support was now thriving, yet Daniel had never once mentioned repaying the sacrifices she made during the early years. It was as if Emily had become invisible within the life they built together. The realization was painful, but it also awakened something inside her that had been dormant for years. She remembered the dreams she had abandoned, the creativity she had suppressed, and the strength she once possessed before she allowed someone else's ambitions to define her value. Late one evening, as she sat alone in the quiet living room, Emily opened a blank notebook and began writing ideas for the design projects she once imagined. The process felt strangely empowering, as if reclaiming a piece of herself that she used to be. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, she did not feel broken. She felt determined. Daniel believed she was dependent on him, that without his success, she had no direction. What he failed to understand was that Emily had been the silent architect behind much of the stability he enjoyed. She knew the company's structure, its investors, and its weaknesses better than he realized. Over the next weeks, Emily began planning something far more significant than a confrontation. She quietly contacted old colleagues from her design school network, reconnecting with professionals who remembered her talent and creativity. She researched potential clients, studied market trends, and prepared a portfolio showcasing the ideas she had developed during the years she spent supporting Daniel's events and properties. Every step felt like reclaiming a piece of the woman she used to be. Meanwhile, Daniel remained completely unaware of the transformation happening right in front of him. He continued his secret meetings with Victoria, believing his wife was too loyal, too predictable to ever challenge him. But Emily had already made the most important decision of her life. She would not fight for a marriage built on lies. Instead, she would walk away and build a future that Daniel could never control. One morning, she placed the divorce papers neatly on the kitchen table beside his coffee cup. When Daniel read them later that day, his confident world would begin to collapse in ways he could never anticipate. Because the woman he betrayed was not weak, she was simply waiting for the moment to arise again.